Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
And Shabbat Shalom to everybody out there. And we're doing our second indoor hybrid service this evening, so there are people watching us on our Facebook page and as well as people in our sanctuary, which is wonderful. And it's been a long week with lots of frustration, so I wanted us all to just take a deep breath and let it out and welcome the peace and tranquility of Shabbat. And you're all here on a good night, and we're here on a good night because in addition to our usual Shabbat service, we have the pleasure of welcoming Alistair Lyons, who's going to be leading a lot of the singing along with Ben Silver, our Cantorial Soloist. And Alistair is the last one in our congregation to have a Bar Mitzvah 18 months late?
Yeah.
18 months late, but he has an amazing voice, and so we wanted to, this was the Shabbat evening service he was supposed to be leading the night before his bar mitzvah, but he didn't have a chance to do that. So he's going to be doing that tonight, so it's going to be a real treat for all of us. So with that, we are going to begin our service with a first song.
The opening song will be Romamu, and it is found in various places in your Siddur, notably page 105. And many of you are familiar with this song. It's a fairly short phrase in praise of God, and I hope you will join with us.
And shake along with your shakers. I know you've got
Oh, we have
out
shakers,
there.
okay. Here we go. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. V'hishtakavu Le'ad Kosho. Great, thank you. Good coordination out there with the shakers, very nice. We'd like to do another song for you, with you, and this one is called Shiru Ladonai, otherwise known as Shir Chadash, a new song. That's what that means, and you'll find words in the back of your book. I think it's page 648. And okay, great. And we have done this before in this congregation, and Alistair is going to help us with this one as well. So please join with us. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song, I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash. I will sing a new song unto God. Right.
And now we're going to continue our service with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, which you may find on pages 120 and 121. I'd like to invite Harriet Lyons, Alistair's mother, to join him in lighting the Shabbat candles for us this evening.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, b'tzivanu lahadlik ner, shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen, 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 amen.
And now that we've welcomed the light of Shabbat, we're going to continue by welcoming the Shabbat bride with L'cha Dodi on page 138.
L'cha Dodi לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת מקבלה.
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו עם יוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה.
לך דודי נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva ore, kumi, ori, 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 shira beheri, kivod Adonai alai digla. Lecha dodi, לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Last verse. בואי בשלום, עטרת פעלה. Come besimcha, utzahola, tov emunei, am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi, lekrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בני שבת נקבלה.
And now that we've welcomed the Shabbat bride, we're going to continue with the next section of our service, the Shema and its blessings, which you may find on page 146. Please rise if you are able. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed.
Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim bechokma poteach she'arim uvitvuna mishane itim umachalif et hazmanim umsader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or uma'avir yom umevi layla umavdil ben yom uvein layla Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Top of page 149 together. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 150.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot אותנו למדת, אותנו למדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Page 152 and 153, we continue with the Shema, the watchword of our Jewish faith. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. We continue with the Via Havta on page 154. Via Havta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha Hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'letecha b'derech, u'shachbecha u'vkumecha, u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'chavtam Hamazuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, lema'an tizkeruhu, vasitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emeth.
And now we're going to continue with Micha Mocha, the song the Israelites sang when they crossed the Red Sea to freedom from Pharaoh's grip. We didn't go over this one, but I bet you know it. on page 158.
I'm so sorry. Ready? מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. נורא עושה, נורא עושה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך, אוקיי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, זה אלי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
And we now continue with the Hashkivenu prayer on page 160. The Hashkivenu is the prayer in which we thank God for creating a shelter of peace over us, which is something that we all need. Seems every week the idea that God creates this shelter of peace that kind of envelops us and protects us against all the issues that we have in our lives, all the issues that we have in our world. So we continue with that on page 160.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרים לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרים לחיים. ושמור צאתנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרים לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרים לחיים.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 162, we continue with the Vashamru prayer. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Now we continue with the next section of our service, the tefillah, which you may find on page 164. This is a section of the service where we pray directly to God, thanking God for being the God of our ancestors, the God who brings us strength, and the God who brings us peace. Please rise if you are able.
Adonai. Ananana svatai tiftach. Ananana ufi yagi tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana svatai tiftach. Ananana ufi yagi tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana svatai tiftach. Ananana ufi yagi tehilatecha. Ananana svatai tiftach. Ananana ufi yagi tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai. Ananana svatai tiftach. Ananana ufi yagi tehilatecha.
Continue with the vote on page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imoteinu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasei Avot V'Imachot, Umevii Geula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo B'Ahava Melech Hozer Umoshia Umagein Baruch Atah Adonai Magein Abraham Be'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol atah rav lechoshia, mechakel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umaptir asurim. Kayehem emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gufurot umidom elach melech memihit chayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atalecha hayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye hakol.
We continue with Shalom Rav, a song for peace, on page 178. Please be seated.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We now continue with the Misha Beirach Get Well prayer on page 371. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. This time we think of Judy Wasserman and Mark Jacobs, who we keep in our hearts and our minds as we prepare to recite our Get Well prayer. And if there are names of others you'd like us to keep also in our hearts and our minds, you may say their names aloud as I look across the room.
Sharon Lippman, Lisa Rohrberger.
Cassidy Chestnut.
Lorraine Ops and Ursula Daly. Thank you.
We also think of all of those who are in the hospital right now and all those who are at home still suffering from the COVID virus in our community, in our country, and around the world. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for all of their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send all of them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Mi shebeirach avotinu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So at this moment, we think of those who need our support and our help for a better future, and we also think of those, come on back in, who we want to celebrate and all of the blessings which are ours at this moment, because Shabbat is a time when we think about not our problems and our worries, but all the blessings that God has given us. And so this is the time when we say Shehechianu, thanking God for enabling us to reach this special moment. And so we think about things which are blessings in our lives right now. And I want to say Shehechianu for having Alistair lead our service this evening and singing so wonderfully and going way above and beyond everything that we expect of him to do, as he always does. And I want to say Shehechianu for all of us being here in the room together. And at this time, if there are others who would like us to have a blessing that you would like to share, or something good that happened to you this week you'd like to share, just shout it out. Not everybody at once. Nothing?
About a week, huh? Well, that's a week.
Well, our week was not great because Mark had cataract surgery, and then everyone says it's fine, it's great, it's perfect the next day. He wasn't. He couldn't see out of his eye, and so it took a week for them to discover that a piece of the cataract was still in there. So we had to go back for another surgery, and now they're saying that his cornea is pretty beat up. So we're on the road with multiple kinds of drugs to, get that healed. But today, for the first time, he's starting to see a little bit out of his eyes.
Oh, good.
Thankful for that.
Good. So after the complications from Mark's cataract surgery, finally today he's starting to be able to see a little bit better out of the eye that he had to have 2 surgeries on. So that's definitely a blessing. Anybody else? Anything else? Yes.
Well, you made it tougher by limiting it to this week, but since this is the first time I've been in the sanctuary since my gorgeous little granddaughter was born, I could say this week she was 14 months and a week old. So I'm thankful for that.
So we are thankful for Dahlia, who is 14 months and 1 week old, who is in addition to James,
Yes.
the cutest baby
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
know of. Not
On our Zoom meetings.
and for those of you who are online, you cannot see a picture of Dahlia. We'll have to figure out a way to get a picture of Dahlia into our live streaming, because she on a daily basis makes me happy. I know that. So we're thankful for Dahlia.
For those who don't know, she makes a lot of funny expressions. She's a very expressive little baby. So,
Well, she's just adorable. I mean, just in general principle. All right, so with all of that, we're thankful for all of those blessings, and we're going to continue with the Shehechianu prayer.
Please join with me. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh
I forgot to mention that another thing that I'm thankful for is that we've got 3 young couples in our community who are here this evening, and the Kaplans are wanting to welcome them for the first time being in our sanctuary. So hopefully you guys will all get to meet each other following the service. And so we now pause for a moment of silent prayer. And now we continue with the singing of Oseh Shalom, another prayer for peace, on page 180.
Oseh Shalom, Imroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Bial Kol Yisrael, V'himru, Amen.
Oseh Shalom, Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Bial Kol Yisrael, V'himru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Bial Kol Yisrael, V'himru, Amen. Oseh Shalom, Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Bial Kol Yisrael, V'himru, Amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. Just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about this week's Torah portion, which is called Vayera, which means God appeared. But first, I wanted to start off by talking about the amazing Zoom meeting we had earlier in the week with Jill Kornetsky. And for those of you who missed it, it's now on my YouTube channel. And she was just incredible, talking about the work that she had been doing in Afghanistan and how she came back, her journey back from Kabul just 4 days before the U.S. completely withdrew from the country, and everything that it took for her to get back here. And just as if that wasn't, Diana, as if that wasn't enough, all the work that she's doing now to prepare to possibly return to establish a trade school for women in Afghanistan, and how she's taking on this incredible endeavor to try to make a huge difference in the world, in the lives of a lot of people. So it's just really just amazing, and it made me think about the lives of women in Afghanistan, and how from our standards here, how they're treated as second-class citizens, and many women had begun to get a little taste of freedom and the ability to aspire to different professions, and to get out of the house, and to get out of those traditional female roles. But now the future is not looking very good for them at this moment. So it's really tragic. But when I read this week's Torah portion, I read about how their traditional roles is really reflected in our matriarchs and in the women in this week's Torah portion. And I hadn't looked at the Torah portion this closely in a long time, and in the context of traditional Islam and women's traditional roles, I was kind of shocked. Some of the details in this week's Torah portion, first of all, 3 men, as you might remember, come to where Abraham is outside of his tent, and he sees that they're hot, they're tired, so he says, "Let me get you some water, let me get you something to eat." And he calls into the tent to Sarah and says, "Hey, Sarah, go get these guys something." He's making all these offers, but it's Sarah who's the one who's he assumes is the one to bring them everything that they need for nourishment. And then later on in the Torah portion, when these 3 men or angels, whatever we want to call them, informed Sarah that in her whole old age she was going to give birth to a son, Sarah's response was to laugh, because at her advanced age like that would be kind of miraculous, and which makes God kind of angry. And so God asks Abraham why Sarah laughed. He doesn't ask Sarah, he asks Abraham, talk to your wife, why would she do something like that? Then these two men, these men go to Lot's house in Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's a crowd that forms around outside the house, and Lot sees that these men might be in danger. So what does Lot do? Lot tells his two young daughters who are of age but hadn't been married yet, he shoves them out of the house so that the group can, if they're going to assault anybody, they should take his two daughters to protect the men who were visiting him. So that was like really shocking. Like, don't touch the men, I'll give you my daughters, as if they had no say in the matter at all. And then, as we know, after the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah, God tells Lot to leave with his family so that they're not destroyed, and as God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah. But Lot's wife turns back against God's wishes, and as we know, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Women did not fare well in this week's Torah portion. And then later on, after Lot's wife died, this is a little X-rated, so I won't go into this, but there was something again involving Lot's two daughters, which was very shocking from our perspective. But again, they felt like they had to continue the line of Lot. And then Abraham and Sarah go on a trip. They go to a new kingdom, and Abraham tells the king Abimelech that Sarah is his sister, not his wife, because Abraham doesn't want to be endangered himself. And in fact, we learned in the Torah portion, I hadn't remembered this, that actually Sarah was Abraham's half sister. And then Sarah conceives, and it says Sarah conceives and bears a son for Abraham in her old age, not for Sarah, but for Abraham. And then Sarah casts out Hagar because she didn't want her to be a competitor with her. And finally, and then we have the whole story of the Akedah, which we read on Rosh Hashanah, when God calls Abraham to the test, and he tells Abraham to take Isaac, his beloved son, up to the top of Mount Moriah, and once Abraham proves his faith in God, Isaac is spared. No mention of Sarah at all during this entire episode. But then the Torah portion ends with a discussion of how Abraham's brother Nahor bears 8 children for his brother Nahor. And then at the very end, the next week's Torah portion, which is called Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah, begins with actually the death of Sarah, which is the very next thing that we read about after the end of this week's Torah portion. So you put all this together, it's not a pretty picture for women in biblical times. But all I can say is that women have come such a long way in our faith, and I just want to end on the upbeat note that we have courageous women like Jill Kornetsky, who are working in this day and age to help women not go back to that terrible time, but for women to have their rightful place in the world. So it's a lot to think about and a lot to digest, but we are here, we are strong, we are courageous, and we are moving forward. Yes?
Will you put in your notes this week what her GoFundMe page address is for any of us that want to support her efforts with women?
Yeah, so Jill has a GoFundMe page, and it's at the end of the video, and there's a link to it in the description underneath the video.
Okay,
So it's very easy to find. So with that, we're going to continue with the Aleinu on page 586. I'd like to invite Alistair to open the Ark curtain. Please rise.
Tefkidenu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated.
Please join me at the top of page 588. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום והשיבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, והארץ מתחת, אין עוד. And please turn to page 591 and join me on our version of Bayom Hahu, V'ne'emar. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol ha'aretz. Bayom Hahu, yihye Adonai, echad u'shemo echad. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני, למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אחד ושמו אחד, אחד ושמו אחד, אחד ושמו אחד.
The introduction to the Kaddish prayer for those who have died is on page 599. We think now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those who we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We recall Edith Jacobs, whose yahrzeits occur this week, and at this time, if there are names of others you'd like us to keep in our hearts and our minds as we prepare to recite the Kaddish, you may say their names aloud as I look across the room.
Max Rosenbaum.
We recall all of those who have died of the COVID disease this week, this month, this past year. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing. We rise to recite the Kaddish prayer on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabbah, v'yalmad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalah u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah barichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who created harmony on high bring peace to us, to our country, to all Israel and all the world, as we say together, Amen. Amen. You may be seated. And usually this is our time for announcements, but I just wanted to just quickly say, first of all, for those of you who are watching who are not part of our congregation, Jill's Zoom episode is on my YouTube channel called Spiritually Speaking. And I also wanted to talk about our service next week, which is going to be at 6 o'clock, which Ellen and I kind of evolved over the past week or so. I was trying to figure out a way where we could be outside, and it's Halloween weekend. So we came up with the idea of what I'm calling Spooky Shabbat. So we're having all the kids come, and adults too, come in costumes next week. We're going to have a quick service outside at 6. Ben, are you going to wear a costume?
I think so. I think I might have to.
Okay, Ben might have to wear a costume. I will definitely wear a costume. And so what we're asking everybody, all the adults, to do is when you come in and park in the parking lot, to bring some sort of candy or treats or something for the kids. And then after the service, which we're going to zip through the service very quickly because it might be cold out, in the back parking lot, we'll come out to the front parking lot, and everybody will open their trunks. And the kids will walk around, and you'll have the chance to give the kids treats from your trunk and just tell them how cute they are and all that. So I think this is a really good multi-generational activity that we'll all have a good time doing, and that'll be a very unique Oneg Shabbat from our trunks.
So that'll be a trunk or treat.
It'll be a trunk or treat, yes, a trunk or treat Oneg Shabbat. Thank you. And I wanted to thank Harriet for sponsoring the Oneg Shabbat this evening, and as we did last week, she's going to set up all the Oneg stuff outside, right outside in the front there. So following the service, we'll just go right outside, and she has made up bags for everybody, right? Awesome. Also an overachiever. Alistair, that's where you get it from. So now we're going, and I wanted to thank Alistair again for doing an amazing job.
Yay.
He's our Temple rock star, and probably you'll be able to hear him even more clearly once he's able to take his mask off. All right, so now we're going to continue with the Kiddush on page 122 and 123. Please rise.
The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reheshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zeker litziat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'yahava uvratzon, inchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-shabbat. Amen.
Symbolic L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Oh, they didn't even give you any wine.
No, I'm just not that important. No.
And now, the motzi.
Ooh, nice.
Individually wrapped pieces of
Wow,
challah.
very nice. Page 604, isn't it? So it's somewhere on there. 604. 604. Oh, I'm just not gonna read. Okay. Sing with me then.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
You may be seated. And Ben, while you were busy singing, Alistair and I decided on the closing song.
Oh, very good.
Ein Kelohenu.
All right.
What,
Page 626.
626.
6, yeah, all right.
I think we're doing the newer upbeat version, right?
Yeah.
Eloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Keloheinu, en Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kadoneinu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu. No de Leloheinu, no de Ladoneinu, no de Lemalkeinu, no de Lemoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadoneinu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kamoshienu.
Shabbat Shalom and go Red Sox.